Ryan.
Hello, Rachel.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. Show me your portfolio. Lie to me about your family, Rachel. I have a certain deal I want to make with you, but there's only one way to seal it, and that's doing it yum style. You look so disgusted at me, but that's okay, because we're here to talk some B5, Rachel, some Babylon 5, and we're going to be talking about it via the rewatch perspective, which means spoilers. If people haven't seen the show, we recommend you do, then come back. And when we say the show, we mean the show. The thing, the whole thing. Bye. If you're still sticking around and you're wondering, why Yum Yum, Rachel? Why Yum Yum?
Yum Yum comes from the disastrous moment that Star Trek Discovery offered up, where Commander Nandi, when asked if she wanted to go murder the season-long antagonist, was Yum Yum, and she did so, sexily licking her lips and flicking her hair.
Did you love it?
No.
Let me repeat it. Did you love it?
No.
But you love it now. You look at it and go, that was worth naming the podcast.
I love the meme of Yum Yum.
Meme? I'm not here for memes. I'm here for genuinely great writing. And that's what I got out of Yum Yum. A moment that I saw and said, yeah, that sums up the landscape of writing in modern television. Hence, we've run away to the past, to the 1990s, to talk about Babylon 5. Tough question. Who would have said Yum Yum in this episode if given the opportunity? Who is the logical candidate? Or is there someone so out of the box that you're going to try and push them to be the person? I know it's tough.
The interpreter. The alien interpreter.
Paul Williams?
Specifically when he's sort of congratulating Ivanova on duping his boss.
After he kisses her hand, then he should have said Yum Yum to let us know he's horny too. I agree. But my candidate, my pick is an outside option. I'm going to go with the Centauri guy who gets stabbed. That guy, the one who's the instigator of all the harm and violence.
Centauri tend to give off Yum Yum energy.
It's the hair and the accents and the racism and
though
all of that.
Though I do like that the Centauri fuckheads have different length of hair.
It shows what level of fuckhead they are.
Yeah.
He had the tallest hair, so he was the most fucky of them all. So that is that. We are going to be talking about a Season 2 episode of Babylon 5. Why am I saying it like that? I don't know. I'm just feeling like it today, Rachel. And we are looking and talking about episode 12, Acts of Sacrifice, which according to the DVD summary goes as such. Sheridan walks a fine line between the acrimonious Centauri and Nans. Ivanova wrestles with another diplomatic problem, with Paul Williams as the translator. Expect to have sex with her to seal an accord. That's what a description. They give away in the description the comedic reveal.
But that doesn't matter because we're a rewatch podcast.
I know, but it's just as a rewatch podcast who spoils it all, I have to point out that they spoil it for newcomers. That's not fair. If I was a child, which I was when I had this DVD, which I did, and I read this before watching the episode, which I did, I would have been very upset, which I was.
So really it's a personal vendetta against this description.
Look, if you've listened to our show long enough, people, if you've listened long enough, I have a lot of beef with the Babylon 5 DVDs. There's lots of things I love, like the morphing menus and the trailers that they include for the episodes, hence we play the voice during it, and I love the menu designs and all of that, and the covers are nice, but there are some things. The descriptions can be a little bit too giving away. The lying, the misuse of photos on the wrong thing. Sometimes the ships are upside down. This could be the whole episode where I bitch about the Babylon 5 DVDs, but people now stream the show. They don't have to worry about the Babylon 5 DVDs. What they have to worry about is
episode orders as well. That's something that they have to worry about.
Yeah, we're watching it in the air date order, the way that it wasn't intended, but it's the way we're doing it because that's how I grew up with it, and I'm not changing now. I'm old and stuck in my ways.
I want you to be happy. And I want me to be happy. I want you to be happy for me and me to be happy for you. Is that so much to ask around here?
My history with the episode isn't too complicated. Of course, I've seen it many a times, and I have always enjoyed it. I would describe it as a solid episode. Nothing spectacular, nothing blowing my socks off, but also not a bad one. This is a very good time. When I watch it, I'm having an enthralling adventure with the characters. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling happy. I'm laughing. I'm almost wanting to cry at some of the things that are going on here. And it isn't one of the ones that jumps out immediately when I think of a great B5 episode. But when I watch it, which I just did, obviously, this is everybody is invested in the material, so it elevates itself. The script is good, the acting is good, the direction is good, the plot is good, and everybody is just committed to this. And that's how I go with this. It isn't going to be one of the ones I'm going to talk about at the end of the season necessarily, but it has so many moments I do think about. I do think about Jakar crying and laughing at the same time. I think about the sad nature of Garibaldi and Londo's friendship ending, and yeah, it's just one of those episodes of season 2 that really reminds you how far we've come since the pilot and since season 1. What about you? What's been your relationship?
This is one of those episodes that I don't remember for the A plot.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it for the smaller moments. Like, I really remember it pretty much exclusively for the Ivanova sex scene.
The human star.
Yeah. Like, all the other stuff just kind of gets overshadowed by that comedic moment because it's sold so well.
And it's very out there.
It's very out there, but also when I rewatch it, my heart breaks over again for Jakar.
Yeah.
And the trials that he is going through as he's trying to save his people from devastation. And he's trying to do all of the right things, and it's not enough because that's not how politics work. And it's so skillfully done, and so much of that is the performance. And whenever I rewatch this episode, I'm just like, fuck, Jakar's amazing.
Yeah. I did find it interesting when reading the DVD description that it frames it as Sheridan is the main player in the story. When I think back, it's about Jakar. Sheridan is having to do stuff, of course. He is one of the lead characters of the show, but when I think about acts of sacrifice and I'm thinking about the main plot, I'm thinking about Jakar, and I'm thinking about how he has to be a leader, has to stand up for his people whilst also
poisoned. He gets poisoned.
Yes, while he has to stand up for his people, lead his people, whilst also having to transition to a new way of understanding, to a new way of fighting, to peace itself, to negotiations, to concessions. All of these things are abstract and foreign to the other Narns, as they have been to Jakar throughout the series thus far. And so, yeah, you're right. Jakar is a draw here when you're watching it, but as you said, the Ivanova human-style sex scene subplot is very memorable because it is a make it or break it. Even if you love it, you have to admit that it is such a random, bizarre, weird left turn in the story.
It's like, what the fuck now?
And it hinges on the comedic abilities of the actress and your own sensibilities of comedy for it to land. And I like it, and you like it, but I'm not going to begrudge anyone who doesn't like it, because it is a divisive choice, but it is a memorable choice. It is memorable. You will remember Ivanova's human style and this whole idea. And it does in a way, it does overshadow the main plot here, which is about this whole entire Narn-Centauri conflict going on. The episode begins, as it rightfully should a lot of the time, and one of the beginning things in this is Londo being, a wishing well with legs is the description.
I love that line so much.
Everyone is my friend. Everyone wants something. I wanted respect. Instead, I have turned into a wishing well with legs.
The episode with this side of it, Londo is feeling very down because he's trapped. He's got the positions and the things that he thought he wanted, and he's moving further towards the thing he thought he wanted, but the realities of it all, the realities of obviously starting a war with another race has weighed heavy on him since the last time we've seen him, but now we're seeing the other repercussions that come from it. There are leeches, there are vermin that are attracted to him. People who never knew he was there are now acting as his friend and using him. He is a tool for others, as he has used other people to get to where he is currently. Yeah. And he doesn't like it. He
doesn't like being like a stepping stone or a wishing well, as he puts it.
And he's trapped himself. He's damned himself. And this is one of the early signs of that, because, again, this is one of the first times we've seen him since the big turn. And it humanizes Londo because he comes across as a real person here, because throughout the whole episode, the human characters are not wanting to talk to Londo, are not wanting to give away information to Londo, not wanting to inform him on the main going on of the plot, because they assume the worst of him. As we do, as the audience, we know how bad Londo can be. We know all the things that they are worried about are justifiable because we've seen him do all of these. But he has the complexity and nuances of a person, because we don't all fit into our little categories and boxes. We aren't all just as simplified as others may see us. We have our good days and our bad days. And Londo is going through a very self-reflexive period in this episode. He is upset with how he is being perceived by others, and he wants to try and change that. So when we get to the ending of the episode and he does the nice and noble and right thing and the helpful thing, he just lets things go and he gives good suggestions of what they should do, and he helps out Garibaldi. It takes them all by a surprise, but we, the audience, aren't that surprised because we've been watching him through the episode try to grab at any form of normalcy that he used to have, because he's starting to realize that what he used to have was good. He used to have friends. He used to have people. Not everyone noticed him, but the people who did notice him would listen to him.
He had connections that were true, valid, and deep in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And now he has none of that.
And he took those for granted. Mr. Garibaldi was always there to stop and talk to him and listen. It's really great to have this be the follow-up to Londo rather than more villainous Londo. More villainous Londo, more corrupt, evil, scheming Londo we will see. But if that was the direct follow-up to where we saw him last episode, it would box him in as the villain of the show too easily. While here, I feel some grain of sympathy for the character. What do you think?
I think it is really important that they decide to layer and contrast Londo. And something that I'm sure that we've mentioned before and we will continue to say is so much of the through line of Babylon 5 is Londo's story. Like, when you boil it down, like, Londo's story is so much of this show, so much the basis, so much the jumping off point. And he continues to be really important. And the way that they do it here, it doesn't feel manipulative, that they're going like, Londo's not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not trying to say that Londo isn't bad.
No.
It's just Londo is sad because he did bad things. He doesn't regret the bad things.
No.
He doesn't want to change the things that he did.
He doesn't think he can.
No. And then he makes the mistake of just doubling down so many times.
Yeah.
And you want to be like, listen to Veer.
Listen, Garibaldi
is right. Listen to Veer.
Listen to Garibaldi.
Listen to Garibaldi. The people that know you and care about you in the first place and want to see you be a good person, not want to see you succeed or don't want to, like, you know, pursue the goal of the Centauri Empire and the expansion and all of that fucking bullshit.
What makes Londo a fascinating character, and to say it, a villainous one at this stage in the show, is he has inherent good within him, and he thinks of himself as a good person, but he's willing to sacrifice that for the glory of power and for his ambitions, and he regrets it every time. He regrets it most, if not every time. And that's compelling. That he's not just the typical, the villain who thinks they're the hero of their story. He knows he's doing bad things, but he still wants to be a good person as well as help his people, but he's just very misguided. And you touched upon something before where they don't want to, as a show, they don't want it to be that what Londo is good. He's very bad. What he's done is irredeemable. It is reprehensible. And we are seeing here in this episode that, well, here it is. He's getting punished narratively already. People are afraid of him. His friends are distancing themselves from him. They assume the worst of him. Yeah. People are not on the side of the Centauri at all during this.
Nope.
People are angry with Londo. People want to kill him.
Doing war crimes.
People want to kill him. And the people who are engaging with him are exploiting him. They see an opportunity for themselves. They don't see a person there. And thus, Londo is a character that you root for in a way because you see how damned he is, and you want to, obviously, for the I guess your morality, you in the end do want to see him get punished in a more conclusive way because what he has done is as I said, very wrong, and you can't walk that back. But at the same time, you see him here in this episode. All he wants is a drink with his friend Mr. Garibaldi, but that's gone now. What he has done has closed that door forever.
And even though he doesn't just want the drink, right? We know that, we see that, we feel that through both his performance
and Jerry
Doyle's. The drink is a symbol of genuine connection on a human to human kind of level.
Yeah.
Obviously, Londo's not human, but hopefully what I mean.
We know.
Makes sense. And even though he gets the drink, it's not what he wants.
Well, what he wants too is he wants people in his life to celebrate what he's done, to celebrate him, to help him justify what he's doing. Yeah, to help justify to himself what he's doing is for something positive in the end, but there's no one around him who is approving of what he's doing. That's the thing too. If you're in his position and you're doing this with the mindset of you're bettering the universe around you, you would want at least somebody to be happy for you, but nobody's happy for him. And he goes to somebody he knows could be, back in the day, Garibaldi, but Garibaldi's afraid of him and angry with him. And so he wants that drink. He wants that moment of, here we are together, enjoying something about one another. But at the end of the day, at the end of the episode, the drink isn't that. It is, they are toasting to the end of their friendship.
It is good to have friends, is it not, Mr. Garibaldi? Even if maybe only for a little while?
Even if only for a little while.
Meanwhile, our good friend, Ambassador Jakar, is having to deal with a bunch. The episode opens up with the Centauri and Nans having a battle and conflict in which the Centauri are willing to attack civilian vessels and outposts and stuff of that nature.
Centauri war crimes.
Yeah, they're committing war crimes, and they justify
and then defending it.
And then justify it by saying that the Nans are hiding and using civilians to masquerade and elude the fact that they are having military things as well, that there are weapons on board. And
we have seen the Nans do shady fucking shit.
And in a few episodes' time, the Nans will get angry about the Centauri potentially, and if not actually doing the same thing. In a few episodes' time, and now for a word, the conflict there is the Centauri are using a civilian transport to hide weapons on it, and it causes a big conflict. So whether it's true or not...
How dare you do the same, cheat in the same way that we're cheating? That's not fair.
Yeah, if the Nan are even doing it here, which you know they aren't. You know they aren't.
Yeah, and you don't believe it.
So...
But you get... If you've been watching the whole show, you understand why people outside will believe that. They'll buy that line. Even if they're not Centauri, they'll believe it because the Nan have a history. And that is
brought up.
One of the things that Jakar is fighting against.
Well, Jakar, like Londo, his actions and his image have damned him in a way too. Far less than what Londo has done. Londo has taken actions that have damned him. But Jakar, in the first season and the start of this season, has he has presented himself in a light that is coming to bite him now. And he has presented his people in that light as well. Delenn has that marvelous conversation. That's the thing too. I can't help but think of the pilot movie in which Delenn and Jakar would have a similar conversation, but the writing was far more childish, far less subtle, and the acting wasn't as great as it is here. But to hear these two characters talk, in which Delenn has that quandary of, if we offer you support now, you are going to build up your forces and build them up to the ability in which you inflict what the Centauri are doing onto them. And then they're going to come to us and offer them the same. How does it end?
Yeah.
Where does the line get?
It's a much more matured conversation
than anything they had in that. I can't help but think about how you play a comparison of the information being delivered of the Narn being a slave race in the pilot movie to how he talks about the wheel of oppression leading them to be a people who are drawn to violence and revenge, filling their every thought in this episode. There's just such a level of craftsmanship that has been grown throughout the season since that pilot movie. There's so much more confidence in the characters are. Mm-hmm. You know who the characters are, as does the writer. So when these two have that conversation, it obviously strikes a chord with you on an ideological and on a philosophical level what they're saying, because it makes you think about the real world. Oh, if when we say we don't want to offer aid to these people because of these reasons, there's that part of you that goes, no, but on a humanitarian level, you want to do that because war is bad and let's end violence. But there is a thought process there. It makes sense of why the Minbari, why the humans don't want to interfere or don't want to aid, because the Narn have made it very clear that they will gather their forces and eradicate the Centauri. That's what they want to do. That's all they want.
That's their goal. To that point, I also want to address that it doesn't feel like it's a drastic course correction in the way that this conversation feels different, particularly to the gathering, but also to other scenes that have happened previously in the show, because the characters have matured as well as the show, and JMS is a creative director of Babylon 5. Like, it's not like, we're dark and serious now. It's season 2 and there's a war going on. It's like, no, these characters have reached this point and they're on this journey that we're watching them go. We are watching them go through these experiences and be changed by them. And I really love how this season in particular uses our main ambassadors of Delenn, G'Kar, and Londo to really play with the idea of being alone in a crowd.
Yeah. That's very true. They do that in a very marvelous way here, because G'Kar is having to deal with leadership in this episode, but he's outside of his people. Or at least this group of people feel that way about him, but he has to prove that
he still has power, he still has control, and he has that amazing line about how his power comes from the Kari, and it can only be taken with authority, and that the dude who's challenging him doesn't have any authority.
But he's made the challenge for it. So we've got to end this the way...
It will be
you've already slapped down the glove and I've got to slap it back.
I was going to go with the sword has been drawn, it demands blood, but...
Yeah, fair enough.
And then, Londo, obviously, he's being surrounded by people who are being friendly. Mm-hmm. But are not his friends.
They don't respect him.
He knows that.
They don't respect him.
They value him for what he can do for them.
And Delenn's an outcast.
And
it's and G'Kar and Kosh is just koshing it up in the corner. He's not even in this episode.
Sheridan gets a little bit of that as well, because he's alone on being the inside of the righteousness within Earth Force and Earth Gov, and now he's not on his own as much.
What I really love about this G'Kar story here is it offers up a really neat insight of what the Narn culture is and how difficult it is to be a representative of it. Because as a representative, Jakar's goal is to be an ambassador. He is there on behalf of his people, but as an ambassador, he should hopefully be somebody who is angling towards a peaceful solution to things. But he has not been doing that throughout the show because he is so angry and so he's got vengeance on the mind, but he's come to this point now where that's not realistic. We can't win through the war of attrition. That's not how we have to fight.
This is a different kind of battle, and a part of that requires different tactics.
Yeah.
We won it in the past. We can't use the same tools because it's a different job.
Yes.
And Jakar really understands that.
To a point.
But no, he really understands that this is a different kind of battle.
Yes, but what he doesn't understand is something that he will further in the future, which is he has to let go of the need
anger.
for the vengeance and anger. Because what he wants at the end of this is for the humans and the Mbryo to come in and give him the weapons and to give him the firepower.
To destroy.
He's on a path to learn better, but at this moment, he is still stuck on that track.
Oh,
he is devastated
absolutely.
that the support they are giving him isn't the...
Yeah, I didn't mean to imply that he wasn't. It's just that he's at the point where he understands that
he's taking
there's a
step.
Specific job at hand and that needs a specific set of tools. And that isn't what he's been doing in the past, but he hasn't gotten to that point. And he is far away from the point
He's still learning.
Where he really, truly accepts and lets go of his hatred for the Centauri and for them subjugating them and the immense losses that has come to him personally as well as to his people. And there's only more devastation to come for the Narn.
When I think of the parallels between Jakar and Londo here, it is fascinating that both of them are having to struggle with how do you do the right thing on a moral level whilst also not abandoning your culture, because both of them operate within their cultural values. We hear from Jakar that his cultural values are informed by the wheel of oppression and that vengeance is in the mind of the people. But he knows here that that cannot be the only way to think about things. That cannot be the only way to operate. We cannot think that we are the chosen righteous ones because we have been the oppressed. Now we can be the oppressors. Because we got out last time due to those circumstances, but that's not how we will this time. We actually have to get support from others to get the validation that we are fighting a war that is unjust. But he has to manage to ride that line of still being in touch with his culture enough to get the side of the common folk Narn, and that's where he falls off in this episode for them. They still don't see him as that. They see him as some guy who's been infected with human values and their weak values, and he isn't even fully there yet, but that's what I liked about him in this episode, of having to deal with leadership of what level do you abide by cultural standards and what level do you, as a politician, as a leader, whatever it may be, eventual spiritual leader, have to put those to the side or outright reject those for what you can see or what is perceived as a greater good. And that was really fascinating here because he has to settle this conflict with violence in the end. He has to beat this guy up and do it the Narn way to get the respects of his fellow Narns. But then at the end, when he gets the information of what Delenn and Sheridan are doing, he has to abide by abandoning those cultural values and having to accept that this is the help he's going to get. He will not get those weapons. He will not get that military intervention the way he and his people want it.
Yes.
Because the greater good won't allow it. The greater good is saying we have to do it in these little ways where it's the saving of lives that's more important here.
So I want to dig into that for a moment, which is that, yes, this is the hand that he's been dealt and that he's not happy with it. But the way that I read that kind of the moment of hysterics that Jakar has after he leaves that meeting, because he went in so hopeful and he's left and he's only gotten this crumb. And like if he says anything about it, it'll go away. Is that like he's glad because he really does mean it when he says, I'm thankful for all of the lives that you are going to save.
Yeah.
But it's also that moment, like I think everybody has had one of these moments of you get exactly what you wanted, but not in the way that you wanted it.
Yeah.
Because he wanted support for his people. He wanted to save their lives. He wanted the Narn to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And this will allow them to do that. But it's not the way that he wanted. It's not the weapons that he wanted.
This has to be done on the QT, Jakar. But it is a start. I thought you'd be pleased.
Yes. Of course I am quite pleased. I understand the risk you are both taking. I will honor your request. And I thank you on behalf of the many Narns whose lives this will save. Thank you.
I like that our heroes, Sheridan and Delenn here, want to help. They know exactly like Jakar the situation. They know the complexities of it. But due to their circumstances, Delenn being an outcast with no power and Sheridan being inside of an apathetic and corrupt government who's anti-alien and cowards, he's not going to get any support to do this. So they have to do what they can, which is little. And this series will show time and time again that doing something is better than nothing.
Yes.
Londo is somebody who did nothing for so long and now he's doing all the wrong things and he will continue to not learn for a very long time. But there's characters like Franklin, there's characters like Talia, there's characters like Sheridan, there's characters like Delenn, and we could go down the list. There's so many in the show thus far and in the future that will step up and do something, even if it's a little thing, even if it is helping these telepaths get out through an underground railroad or running a free clinic, or this situation here in which they are offering their aid and they're smuggling these people out and dropping food here and medical stuff here. It's good because one of the critiques we often make about a lot of shows, especially Star Trek and modern Star Trek, is our heroes, and Babylon 5 obviously has these moments too, but our heroes win in the big, glorious ways. They shoot the bad guy and everyone cheers and claps, or they give that amazing Picard speech in which you cry and it changes the foe's mind and the war is over.
Wow!
Here it is, things are really tough to do the right thing, and I want to, so help me God, I would give you all the support that you want, but I can't. Here's what I can do. It may not seem much, but at least I am doing something. I find that to make the characters far more relatable, and again, makes you root for them, makes you sympathetic towards them, makes them heroes that you want to follow in a show, because it, at least for myself, makes me question what I would do in their situation. What would I be capable of doing?
So of one of the fucks Huh?
What a transition. We go from Jakar crying to Ivanova fucks. What an episode. Tonal juggling acts is the usual thing. Well, let's set it up. We'll get to the Ivanova fucks part, but what is the B plot in this? What's happening here?
In this plot, as we touched on earlier, Ivanova is trying to recruit a race to join the Babylon 5 project.
Yes.
Either become like a board member, Kosh never uses his place on the council, so he doesn't even get a seat because he doesn't sit down.
No. It'd be weird to see him sit down.
Yeah.
I don't think the suit would have allowed the actor to sit down.
No.
It would be interesting to see him sit down, though. Or to do a flip. You're thinking about it, aren't you? Front or back flip?
Yeah, so Ivanova is tasked with that because Sheridan doesn't want to.
Yeah, no, that's it. He doesn't want to.
He doesn't want to.
What a
He's
terrible
busy
boss.
with the Centauri and Narn conflict and dealing with that bullshit. So, it's making Ivanova learn about diplomacy.
The fine art of diplomacy. They say it in unison because they say it so many times.
Yeah.
It's a neat little wink at the audience saying, we know we've been doing this a lot with Ivanova this season.
Yeah. So she works really hard to try and convince them, but the aliens are racist.
Well,
They are social as well as physical evolutionists.
yes, they're elitists.
Elitists.
We've got to mention that they're so elitist that the actual main alien guy refuses to directly speak to other species until they've confirmed how superior they are. If they're inferior, they won't speak to them directly. They'll use this little translator guy who looks like he's a subspecies. He doesn't look as if he is a direct species of the other guy. He is in either...
It's like you came from the same planet,
Yeah, that's what
I guess?
a lower class type of deal. He's a little guy, played by Paul Williams. He's got a little piggy nose, and
Franklin
he's-
says the specific name of their kind of relationship.
Yeah, they have this kind of symbiotic, kind of telepathic connection, which is fascinating. I think it's really cool. But yeah,
It's a really cool sci-fi idea.
Ivanova has to deal with these aliens who are elitist scumbags who have very high standards, and she has to impress them. And how does she do that? How does she wow them? She tours them around, she gives them over to Franklin, and they have a little intellectual argument that basically boils down to eugenics.
I love Franklin's response to that because it's truly Franklin.
I relate to it because we've lived with a person once in our life that believed in eugenics, and I felt like I was Franklin talking to that person, being like, excuse me now? Where are we going with this? So I found that a very real conversation point because I've actually literally had it. So that was... And when I watched this as a kid, I didn't think I'd actually have that conversation in real life, but
No.
the world's a dark, twisted place, unfortunately, and that's what makes B5 even more fun. Fun.
It was funny because in that conversation you used references to Franklin's speech in this episode because that housemate had watched Babylon 5.
I know. Oh, brother, where do we go with that? But no, I love this plot. Before we even get to the weird sex thing at the end, I love this plot of
the elite
Ivanova.
aliens trying to be courted by Babylon 5.
Yes, trying to be courted by Babylon 5, and there's the interesting little twist here where they are... Season 2 takes a lot of shots at Star Trek for some reason. I don't know why season 2 is the one where they decided, hey, Star Trek, go fuck yourself. But my read is this comes across as a jab at the prime directive-y nature of Star Trek, in which we are so high and mighty that we will not help others if they're lower than us, if they haven't reached this certain level of status, if they aren't warp capable, if they aren't genetically pure or socially pure enough, or whatever bullshit it is. We won't help a dying child because that's how nature intended it. It is not our job to change that.
Yeah.
That is how I look at it. That's how it comes across to my eye. And
You big Trekkie, you.
my big Trekkie brain goes, Paul Williams was in Voyager. Yum, yum.
Spoilers for the spotlight.
Spoilers for the spotlight, but I like that. And of course, it goes to the point in which the aliens are choosing where to go because they are aware that Ivanov is only showing them the good parts of the station, and they want to see other things. They want to be shown the true realities of this species that they are potentially going to align themselves with. And I think that in itself is cool.
Very smart move.
Very smart move on their part because it's obvious what's happening. They're showing you the good parts. We want to see the bad parts too. And I like that.
Ivanova doesn't even pretend like that's not the truth of the situation, which
Yeah.
I also really appreciate because Ivanova ain't got no time for that.
But she is a
I
little
really
bit...
hope she got like her nightgown or whatever part he took back.
Well, that's what I was going to say. She was a bit distracted during that scene because the main alien guy who isn't talking, who's the boss from Seinfeld, he was too busy fiddling with her blue negligee that she wears all the time, which we've seen her wear all the time and will continue to see her wear all the time. She only has one, and it's this blue one. But yeah, and then they take. They go to down below, and there's the homeless, and it's the show addressing the fact that homeless people do exist, by the way. The lurkers do exist, by the way, and isn't that kind of sad that in the future, even in space, we still have homelessness, and that this is a crisis that we are unable to fix?
But they solved that.
Earth doesn't have homeless.
Excuse me?
We don't have the problem. Yes, there are some displaced people here and there, but they've chosen to be in that position. They're either lazy or they're criminal or they're mentally unstable.
No, they don't look at this and go, oh, this is awful. How can you treat yourselves like this? No, they go, wow, this is great. We have to adopt this back on our planet.
Yeah. You have made a hierarchy system within your own species and have weeded out the weak and put them in their own little areas.
And given that, like, they're a workforce without a power base.
Yeah.
Because we've seen how dangerous unions can be in this show, Ryan.
Oh, boy. And it is a great moment of commenting upon how the capitalist society that we have to live in is this fucking nightmare world that can often lead to the things that they're talking about, where, yeah, you've got this demographic of people and they are just herded into this location, into these groups, into these lifestyles, into this scenario because you have this system that sets them up to fail time and time again. And they see it as a method of eugenics.
Not everybody can succeed.
They see it as a method of perfect eugenics. You're wiping out the weak side of your species and making them breed with themselves and leaving them over here to die, basically, and be suffering, while you guys, the guys that are great, get to be wonderful and not have to think
There's
about
a down
that.
below and up above.
Yeah.
And I always love when they point out that down below was never designed for this. This is an underdeveloped part of the station.
Yeah.
And a weird unintended consequence of the way that the station works. But in particular, the kind of tactical maneuver that is the fact that it has undeveloped sections is because 4 of them fucking were destroyed or went missing.
Yeah, and it's
so
expensive.
It's another way of,
they cut corners.
of cutting corners, but like they clearly needed this much space to make all like the gravity work and have all of these things that they wanted, and that, well, we can't just build an annex or a granny flat on this space station. So we have to have room to grow.
Well, it's that classic thing, isn't it, where the show itself has this commentary. You hope for the best, but reality doesn't always give you that. We hope that we can build Babylon 5 and it will be this beacon of peace and unity, and it failed. Kick in the theme music and Ivanova's badass monologue. And same with the homelessness situation. That is an unforeseen consequence. Mm-hmm. That is not something that obviously Babylon 5 wants or expects, but it was the unforeseen. It is a thing that exists in the real world. Sometimes there are things and institutions and buildings and many we could go on that are built with good intentions to give back to the community, but in so doing can reveal the horrors of the community as well. How many times have we seen in nice areas even a new thing has been built, and before you know it, someone has put graffiti on it, someone has thrown a brick through the window or set it on fire or anything like that, or there's already homeless people who are sleeping outside.
They burn their own bins.
Yes, and that's a reference to my childhood that only I got, so I now have to explain that I grew up in a very poor town in Australia, in which the street that's around the corner from where I lived, called North Street,
you could have just cut me.
No, I'm doing it. No, because you said it when I was talking, so fuck you.
What?
See, now you're cutting me off, explaining my own fucking history.
No.
I don't know where to go, but I'm moving forward because I'm done with it. I'm over it. I'm moving past this storyline in general. It's
devastating that things that are meant to boost the community are often destroyed by the people that they think that they're helping.
Or they don't even think about.
Yeah, it's like, this makes it look good. Does it do anything to help? Maybe, maybe not. Is it what the community asks for? Wanted? Maybe, maybe not.
Babylon 5, the station, is a mess. It's got its great things and its bad things. It's not completely finished being built for a start, but it's fully operational. They've upgraded the military side of it, but they can't give the union guys their fair share, and the dockers, and it's a messy place. And this is an example of that, and these aliens admire it. They think that this mess is this intentional societal structure.
You isolate the genetic pool, you limit their chances for procreation, you create a workforce without a power base to challenge you. Well, this is not something we thought of, but it's something we will institute in our world at the first opportunity.
The aliens want to seal the deal. They agree, and they want to seal it with sex. He's so gung-ho about sex that he's trying to undress right there and then. And Ivanova is so fucking blown away by this revelation, and so are we, the audience. Where do we begin?
No signs of this.
Well, no. He played with her. He played with her clothes. And stole some of them.
Creepy.
Yeah.
Creepy,
The creep was set up. The creep factor was set up.
The creep was set up, but the fact that they do their deals in this way by doing... they do their deals by doing the deed.
So they say.
So
they say.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We don't know. It could just be this guy's a creep. I don't believe him. For some reason, I don't believe him. I think he's a creep.
No. I buy it. I buy it as, like, this is the way of, like, expanding their, like, elitism.
It's just also show another way that they're weird.
Yeah, like, yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I think that's mainly why it's there. It's just another way to show that they're weirdos, because what's weirder than they want to fuck?
Yeah.
But do you remember what your reaction was to this? And how do you feel about it in general? You said earlier that you like this, but do you remember what
I
you
find
thought?
it funny.
Mm.
I did not like it the first time I watched it because it skeeved me out way too much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just caught me so off guard and it upset me. Would you agree with that?
No, because I grew up with Star Trek.
No. Would you agree that that's the way? Is that the way that you remember me reacting to it? Is what I meant.
You were laughing too much, so it's kind of hard for me to get that interpretation. You were laughing a lot.
I was laughing at it, but I was also appalled.
I did not have that reaction because I grew up with Star Trek, in which Deanna Troi would be a victim of sexual assault every third episode. So I looked at this and said, "Oh, we're just doing normal science fiction television now. Great, okay." But this one has an overt comedic angle to it, and the character herself takes ownership of it. I guess she's very active in the plot. She's not a bystander that's having the thing happen at her.
Even though
she grabs it by the
Franklin
horns
suggests that she should drug herself.
No. He suggests put a bag over the guy's head and do it for B5, and then he suggests giving her something to get sick. That's his suggestions. Franklin's a fucking creep. I don't know.
Fucking creep.
I don't know why they keep doing this with him, because they don't do it consistently enough. Like, Garibaldi's consistently a creep.
Sex pest
Franklin. But I remember when I saw this, I laughed a lot. I thought it was very funny because this is what they always do.
Yep.
They always do this, but I thought it was funny, and I still think it's funny now. And I think it's great because Ivanova, although this is a thing that she doesn't want to do, she's doing it in a professional manner and she's taking charge of it, rather than how many times we've seen in Star Trek and other shows in which this is a plot that happens at the character and they suffer, and then it's somebody else's role to save the day.
Yeah.
And somebody else's role to suggest.
Step in and white knight her.
No, she comes up with a solution that's very clever and very funny. And as said earlier, this doesn't work for everybody. And it's too cringy. The premise itself is, again, maybe too familiar for this genre and too creepy. But we both like it. My sister likes it. My family likes it. We all find it funny. Why? Why is it funny to you? What about this whole sex seal deal and then the solution to it?
It's silly. That's a large part of why I find it funny, is because it points out, by being so different than what we do, how arbitrary our social norms are sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, Franklin compares it to a handshake. It's just like we ascribe meaning to these things and differentiate things between and based on our values, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that they did with Down Below. Like, we see it very differently than they do. We see it, and we see sex in a very different way.
Yeah, and I think it's funny in the way that, one, Claudia Christian just is very good. She knows how to react. She delivers the lines. She carries the material very well. The second is the obvious as well, which is the creeps don't win. They are duped. They are fooled. They are bamboozled. They are made the fools. They have the wool pulled over their eyes.
Because of their own failings.
And they don't want to come across as stupid and inferior, because that's the whole entire thing, is that they're superior and an inferior race would not know. And they don't want to come across like they don't know that human style, what it is, and that it was good and anything like that. So they're going to play along. And that's what makes it funny, is they are being fooled very obviously, but because of how they have presented themselves, they have to go along with it. And that is why I enjoy it, as well as just the lines are really good, as well, again, the acting. The guy who plays the alien ambassador, the guy from Seinfeld, he does some amazing work, so many eye rolls, so many little physical gestures and mannerisms. I love when she's doing the human style and she's asking how it is for him. He reacts with a little, a fake one, but one that nonetheless where he feels obliged to reply with like pleasure sounds, and it's very forced, and I loved it very much because he doesn't know what's happening.
No, got no fucking clue.
She's dancing around saying all of these weird phrases, and I think that's where myself and my family love it is the lines that she says during the human style are just so weird and bizarre.
But they all kind of line up.
Oh, they make sense. It's just very weird to hear her go boom shaka laka laka, all that, and then tell me about your portfolio, lie to me about your family, never call me again, and all of that. And
you go out for pizza.
I get it. It's one of those things where if this was in another show, would you like this?
No.
If Star Trek Discovery did this, we would call that the yum yum moment of all time. We would never stop bitching about it. Right? No, we would never stop bitching about it. It would never cease how much we would roast that. And that says so much about how
it would never stop being funny in a very different way.
But because we like this show far more, this show has won us over to itself as well as the character involved. We like it here. But if somebody who didn't have that level saw this and reacted strongly in a negative sense, I get it. I get it. Because again, if this happened in other shows, Stargate, Star Trek Discovery, Battlestar Galactica, Star Trek, Deep Space Nine.
Nah, I don't want that there. No, I'm just imagining somebody making an little animated short of, Michael Burnham, the xenoanthropologist, being in this situation.
They wouldn't do that with Michael.
No, that's why I'm like, it's a fair and animated short.
Realistically, they would do it with Tilly.
Yeah, but Michael's the xenoanthropologist.
Yeah, but they would never embarrass Michael like that. Unless she's on drugs. That's the only other exception. If Michael's on drugs, she would do this scene. That's how that would happen.
Damn.
Finally.
It is time for the Actor's Spotlight, the part of the show in which we talk about an actor or actress that appeared in this episode. We discuss their performance, their role, and any other pieces of information, what else we've seen them from, pieces of their life that we find intriguing, any of that stuff. Who are we looking at, Rachel? Is it the boss from Seinfeld?
No, we already did spoilers, didn't we? Paul Williams.
Oh, Paul Williams? Of Muppet fame?
Of Muppet fame.
Of Muppet fame, Paul Williams, star of Star Trek Voyager. I incorrectly said TNG last episode. I thought he was in a TNG episode as well as a Voyager episode. But let's discuss him here. Paul Williams, he is the translator in the episode. He's in the heavy prosthetics. He is this little man, and I love him in this episode. I love his voice. I like Paul Williams in general. I think he's a great singer, great writer, and a good actor as well. I think he's a very good actor. I find him a very intriguing actor. And I love him here. He's got these nice little mannerisms, and the way he stands and walks really gives you an understanding of what his character is.
Is that Hug?
Yeah, I think so. And I like him. I like his moment at the end in which he connects with Ivanova, gives her a shake of the hand.
I know what you did there.
Gives her a kiss on the hand, this acknowledgement of, yeah, you and I know what just went on, but he doesn't know. I love that. I love that because you didn't need it. He could have just walked off with the other guy and been one of the people fooled, but it gives you this character here that I will remember, the translator who knows more about what's going on in the real world than the guy is translating for. Because, again, he is probably from, and this all comes down to this little moment and visual things, he's probably from another subspecies of their society that are the oppressed or the downtrodden or the lesser of the two. So he can obviously, being in that position, understand how bullshit it is that these guys are like this. So to see the head honcho guy get fooled like that would be a satisfying moment. And it's great. It's a great little touch because here I am talking about it enthusiastically rather than not talking about it at all. And it would just be, oh, did you know Paul Williams was in this episode? And that would be the only thing I could talk about was, hey, he was in the episode as a guy that said lines. Instead, he has his little moment. It isn't much, but it's something. Unlike what Warren Keffer got in this episode, which was nothing. He wasn't here this episode. We have to remind ourselves that he's in the show. He's in the opening credits, Warren Keffer, but not this episode. Rachel, what about you? Paul Williams, what did you think?
I really enjoyed his performance. And I also liked the little ways that you could kind of see his character through what he was saying as well. Like when he is performing his job as a translator, you still get that sense of like, yeah, he really does believe this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what he's thinking.
Yeah, these little...
This is what I have to do. Like, you don't fully get the sense that he wholeheartedly believes in the same things that his boss does.
No.
You know, like eating a Mars bar with a knife and fork. He's not down for that. He's not down for that.
He's not down for getting him all these different socks that fit right. So Paul Williams is a legend. He's a music legend, of course, but he's also acted in several things. I've seen him in numerous things.
He has 92 acting credits, according to IMDb. He was born in 1940 and had his first credit in 1965.
That early on, huh? Yeah, we saw him in Baby Driver. He had a small role in
The Butcher.
He was my favorite part. That was my favorite scene in the movie. I'm not a huge fan of Baby Driver. I would love to watch it again, but...
Oh, but you loved him in Princess Diaries too, right?
Oh, of course. But no, seriously, I loved him in his one scene in Baby Driver. He was creepy and funny at the same time. He was marvelous in that. Princess Diaries 2 with Kirk himself, Chris Pine. He was in that movie too. Never forget.
No. He also wrote the theme song to The Love Boat.
Of course. Yeah, we'll get to his music stuff because that's the big deal, of course. He's the big music man, even though he's a little guy. Star Trek Voyager, mentioned that earlier, which is a great episode of Star Trek Voyager. A go-to for me of what are good episodes of Voyager that's about character. The Doctor is always the great character in Star Trek Voyager. What's a great episode of The Doctor? Oh, Virtuoso, where they find a planet that doesn't understand what music is. They have no understanding of songs or anything like that. So they're in amazement of the Doctor because he can sing. And they want him to stay and perform for them so that they can appreciate and be ever so clever. But they don't appreciate any of the actual artistry or nuances of singing. They just look at it as a thing, and they eventually figure out how to replicate what he does, but it's all just tones and notes, and it's awful. They have no understanding of, like I say, the artistry of it. It's a great episode, and I do believe he's one of the head people, maybe even the head of that entire society, which again, the irony being Paul Williams, well-known songwriter and singer, musician legend, is the head of a race of people who have no concept of what any of those things are.
We want to learn more about the algorithmic expressions you call music.
Phantom of the Paradise is probably what got him onto this show. That's my guess, because we've had a couple of Phantom of the Paradise people here.
Or we've also had a number of Texas Walker Ranger people, and he was in that too.
Oh, really? Was he a bad guy? I don't know. Oh, what would he be in that? If he did stunts in that, I would watch it. If he's doing kicks and running and flips.
He was Tumbleweed Tom.
So he's a big tumbleweed with a pair of glasses on and he rolled down a hill. I could see that happening. What about you? Have you seen him in much?
I've heard him more. So he's done a lot of voice acting along the way. So he was in a couple of episodes of Adventure Time.
Makes sense. He has a great voice.
He does. He was also in Dexter's Lab.
Yes.
Just one episode, though, that I just...
So him and Kat got to work together, huh?
Yep.
Separate soundboards, but probably work together.
And Our Real Monsters. He was in an episode of that. And
so a couple of cartoons when we grew up.
Yeah, he was also in a cartoon that I haven't watched, but I kind of am enthralled by the look of, which is Fish Police.
Fish Police. Was he one of the fish?
Yeah. So it's Inspector Gill, a fish detective, navigates an underwater metropolis, solving often mafia-related crimes while avoiding the seduction of Vamp, Angel Jones, and avoiding marriage to diner owner Pearl.
I would watch that along with Duckman, Private Eye Detective /
and he was in the episode No Way to Treat a Fillet Day.
Okay.
But, he was also in My Little Pony, Escape from Katrina. So
don't even try to pronounce it again. The My Little Pony fans listening to this are screaming out loud the correct pronunciation of this. And I don't want to get any emails at yumyumpod@gmail.com about My Little Pony and how we've mispronounced anything from its mighty catalog and lore.
Okay.
Bronies, I'm on your side. Don't get at me. It's Rachel.
Don't throw me under the bus.
They don't use a bus. They have hooves, Rachel. Hooves. I'm throwing you under a cavalcade to get trampled on by the hooves, Rachel.
I'm done.
Rachel's done. See what you've done, bronies? Your threats and terror have ruled the interwebs far too long, and now Rachel's done. She's retired from podcasting. Now it's just going to be me. And that's not Yum Yum, that's Yum. Because we are the Yum Yum podcast, where I'm Yum and Rachel's Yum and you're the podcast. Rachel's nodding. She's still in the room, but she's nodding. She's smiling. She's licking her lips. It looks like she's ready to say something. Is she going to say it? Is she going to say the line? Bart? Say the line, Bart. Rachel's now just frowning at me and looking upset because she can't say Yum Yum out loud. She's thinking it. Which, hey, I get, Rachel. You have to think about Yum Yum before you can say it. But can you feel it, Rachel? Can you feel Yum Yum? She's nodding. She's rubbing her belly, licking her lips. Is she going to say it? No. It's just building up anticipation, like how we're going to be talking about Paul Williams' music career side of his life. I mean, where do you begin? This guy's an Oscar-winning songwriter. He's been nominated, I don't know how many times. He wrote Rainbow Connection, which is it fair to say that is probably one of the most iconic pieces of music for a film? Rachel's clucking like a chicken, pecking at the ground, scratching her foot. I think that means a yes. Rachel doesn't want to Now she's pointing up in the air with her finger. What's up there, Rachel? What's up there? Why are you using your middle finger to point? It's very odd that you're using that. I usually use... Oh, she's giving me a thumbs up now. She's saying, you're doing a good job, Ryan. Keep hosting the pod without me. I refuse. The bronies have caught me. Bring her back, bronies. Hashtag bring her back. Bring her back. Too bad next episode, Rachel will not return and will be joined forever by Larry DiTilio as host of YumYumPod. Okay, let's get real, Rachel. As David Lynch says, let's get real. Paul Williams, music legend. Are you that familiar with his music, with his songwriting, any of that?
He's done a lot of beautiful work along the years. An interesting point in his biography is that he's very active in like counseling and helping people with drug and mainly alcohol addiction.
Because he himself was an addict. Is an addict. And so, he's very much engaged in trying to help people and other musicians in that area with that. So that's cool. I mean, it's good to know that because, again, I didn't know anything about that. I look at Paul Williams and I look at him sitting with a bunch of Muppets wearing wacky outfits and silly hats and his big glasses, and I just go, oh, he's such a humble guy. But no, he's had struggles in his life and he's managed to overcome those, and now he's using his experiences and his knowledge to help. Oh, he has done that to help others as well.
He's still working.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The latest project that he's involved in is Superman Red Sun.
Yeah, he was the voice of Brainiac. Perfect casting.
But I think that was a couple of years ago and he hasn't had anything.
I wonder if he's been doing music-y things because he will just surprise you with
like
music
he goes
stuff.
In and out of like what type and version of being a creative that he's actively doing. Like he'll weave in and out of TV, film, animating,
Broadway, all of that. He's hard to pin down because he will give us Rainbow Connection, a beautiful song. He does beautiful songs in general.
Yeah.
But then he'll be in Adventure Time and Baby Driver, and then he'll sing with Daft Punk, and then he'll do the entire score for a movie in which it's a bunch of kids playing gangsters, and it has Jodie Foster in it straight after she did Taxi Driver or just straight before, and he does the entire score for that where the children open their mouths, even girls open their mouths, and Paul Williams' voice comes out of them.
Yeah, it's a lot. That movie's a lot.
Yeah, I wish I could remember the name. Is it like Bugsy Malone or something along those lines?
I think it is.
And I love him. I love looking stuff up about him. I love his quotes. He has another quote in which he talks about his career where he's won an Oscar. What did he win an Oscar for? You said, Star is Born, right? He did a song for the 60s version of A Star is Born.
70s, I think.
The 70s version, and he won an Oscar for that.
Yeah.
But he's talked about how he's had this magnificent career where it could never expect where to go. He's been in these roles, and he's written this, and he's done that, and then one day, two robots asked him if he wanted to sing a song for them, and he thought, my career has taken some interesting turns. I'll sing for these robots, and that robots are Daft Punk. He's a fascinating figure, and I love him as an actor because he's just so unusual. How do you cast Paul Williams? And every time I've seen him, somebody's figured out a way to do that because he's so specific. Because I wouldn't say he's the classically trained actor or anything like that.
No, that's not what you go to Paul Williams for.
But when you do, you have to have something in mind for him. And every time I've seen him,
he's a choice.
He always plays weird characters.
Absolutely.
Because he's weird. He
weird
is
looking. Weird.
He's got a...
He's a little man with a weird face.
And a beautiful voice that comes out of him.
Yes, which makes his face look even weirder, because it's like that shouldn't come out of that body.
He's a cherub.
He's a little cherub.
I was going to thank all the little people and... Then I remembered I am the little people.
I give this episode a yum yum.
Yum yum.
It's a yum yum for me too.
Yum yum.
Rachel, let's hear what we're going to be talking about next time on Babylon 5.
On the next Babylon 5.
Episode 13, Hunter Prey. Somewhere in the station's 5-mile expanse, a fugitive doctor, Tony Steedman, hides. Earth Alliance's orders are clear: shoot to kill. But Sheridan suspects the runaway might be innocent of the charges against him. Yes, next episode, we are going to be talking about Hunter Prey, the episode that asks the question, can we have Socrates from Bill and Ted be in this episode? Yes, we can. Can we have the teacher from Bill and Ted also be in the episode as the guy hunting him down? Yes. Yes, we can. Is it very distracting every time Ryan watches the episode? Of course. Of course it is. Of course it is. But we'll have to suck that up and learn to grow past it for the next episode when we cover it. Rachel, where can people find us on the internet?
YumYumPod or YumYumPodcast on the various social medias, including what, Ryan?
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, Tumblr, TikTok, blah, blah, blah. All of those various social medias.
And as Ryan pointed out earlier, we have an email address if you want to send us your lovely emails.
Yes.
Even some audio included. We might drop it into the episode.
Yeah.
Who knows? But that is yumyumpod@gmail.com.
We have our Patreon in which we do bonus content on there. We have done all of the best and worst rated Star Trek episodes according to the IMDb. We are currently going through the modern Star Treks that are on, so we're going through Picard, hopefully going to go through Strange New Worlds at some point in the future. So if you are interested to hear our takes, our thoughts, hot off the presses, come over to the Patreon. You get to also be a part of a group Discord in which you can discuss many of things with us and share many of things and be a part of a community. You get to be that when you join our Patreon. We have multiple tiers. We are covering the X-Men movies. We are giving our thoughts on things. Come on over, support us if you have the means to do so. We would like it very much. We've got some debts to pay. The bronies have a ransom out for Rachel. They're saying that she won't be able to come back for next week's episode unless we pay them, because Rachel dared even stumble over a brony thing. So please come over to the Patreon so that Rachel can be afforded to come back next episode. But enough of the brony drama. # bring her back. Jakar had a lot going on. Mm-hmm. He was crying. He was vengeful. He was a proud leader. Mm-hmm. But he didn't unite his people by saying the phrase. He did not say the line, Bart. He did not say good eating to you. But I'm brave enough. If you are, Rachel, are you brave enough to say it?
Good eating to you?
Good eating to you? Yes, indeed.
Mr. Cannonball